the KiwiEars KE4. Let's talk about it. This is a purchased unit from Linsoul. This is a fairly new release, and I paid full price for this. On occasion, I will buy IEMs just to kinda, check them out, see what I think of them. So let's get one thing out of the way. This has a dumb name, KE4. I don't really like it, but let's talk about the build quality of this IEM. Alright, the box, yeah, it's not too exciting, no graph on it, kind of bland, but it's a nice box and no problems with it. The tips, I don't know, I tried them, I kind of hate them. Like, I don't hate many things. You also get filters. Now the cable's actually not bad. I mean, I kind of like the look out of it. It reminds me a lot of the cable from the KiwiEars Quintet. It's not bad. It's kind of juicy feeling. It feels good on your fingers. It's a little bit thick. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the cable that's used on the Zigot, like Cicatrice and Da Cinco. I mean, this cable is a nice chin slider. It feels good in hand. It's flat 2-pin, which to me is the alpha of all connectors. It just works well. Now the shell design, it is a little bit larger than something like the Magical One. So it's like kind of a medium to large shell, but it's a nice shell and it fits in my ear canal well. I really like the comfort and feel of this shell, and I would say it's good for me. And I would say maybe it's one of my more favorite shells. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. It fits ear tips well. It has a nice wing. Its nozzle isn't too big, and it does a lot of things well. Like I also like the faceplate of this and think it is objectively very nice, and I have no problems. Take a look at that. Yeah, it's pretty great, right? Yeah. So how does this IEM sound? The bass is impactful. It's just right. Its upper mids are nice and sparkly. It has some jankiness in the upper air, but for $300 or for $200 even, I find this a very fair value, and I really like the build quality and comfort of this IEM. All right, the KE4, you look at that. It's right, it's right within the preference boundaries of my tone and graph. You'll notice a lot of good things, like, let's match these up just so we can see it better. But it has a nice, good bass shelf, good upper mids. I mean, it has a lot going on as far as tonality goes, and it has a nice overall tone and presence to it. I wanted to take a few minutes, compare this to some of other KiwiEars IEMs, and then kind of talk about what kind of tuning this is and why this is important. Now, a lot of people have said this, and I didn't believe it until I heard it myself, but I'm going to parrot the same comment that this is the best thing that I've ever heard from KiwiEars. Now, granted, I haven't heard some of their earlier stuff, but I've heard a lot of their stuff, and I'll show you some of the ones that I've heard on their graphs and do brief comparisons just to kind of give a little bit of credence to what I'm trying to say. But this is an amazing IEM. It's priced at $200, which is cheaper than the Quintet, which came out at about this time last year, give or take. So let's look at some of these guys. Now, the first one we're going to look at is the Quintet. Now, you'll notice the Quintet has way more upper mids. It has a little bit more kind of weird energy right around 10K, which kind of came across a little bit tinny for me, but had a nice bass. Now, the Quintet's a nice IEM, but I think overall it just it didn't really do a lot of things great. It was just kind of okay. For those people looking for this new trendy modern tune, the KiwiEars 4 is something that's going to do that very well. I think its bass impact is just as good as the Quintet. Its upper mids presence, again, it's the JM1. It's probably not what I personally would go for, but I think it's just fantastic. And it's a really nice overall presentation for its price. Next one I want to look at is the Forteza. Now the Forteza, man, it's like $60. And so let's go ahead and normalize this at, like 800 just so you can see. Look at how much bass is there with the Fortezza, which, you know, that amount of bass is fine. I'm a bass head. I like bass, but whatever. But if you look at how much upper mids that is there, it's just like an abomination. Like, it just sounds super bright, super sparkly, super treble forward, and it just doesn't sound good to my ears. The next one I look at is this Dulce. The Dulce is like $20. I mean, it's been out for a while. It's a fine set. I mean, for me, for budget sets, it's debatably a good budget set. A lot of people like it. I'm kind of mid about it. But I mean, you know, for me, having more expensive IEMs, it's hard for me to listen to the Dulce, and I didn't like it at all. And the KiwiEars KE4 is something that I really like. Like, it's fully fantastic, and it does a lot of things in a nice, natural kind of a way. Now, another one that I liked, the KiwiEars Clinical Singolo. The Singolo is really cheap. It doesn't have the extension air that the KiwiEars KE4 has. I actually like the bass on the KiwiEars KE4, I think, better than the Singolo. But the problem I had with the Singolo was it was super small, super tiny. Its packaging was absolutely horrific. So, I mean, you basically have to buy a case, a new cable, and kind of go from there. But like, to me, the KiwiEars KE4, despite it being more expensive, has way better packaging, way better sound. I think most people are going to like the KiwiEars KE4 a great deal more than the Singolo. But the Singolo is, you know, if you could reshell the Singolo into the KiwiEars KE4 and do a new version, maybe next year or something, I think it would be a lot better and perceived better, even if they had to increase the cost a bit more. Next one to show you, the Melody. I mean, the Melody is one, like, sometimes KiwiEars has their tuners that do really good stuff, and sometimes they just kind of look at this. I'm normalizing this at around 800, and it has a lot of bass, which is not bad, but it has a lot of upper mids. It's kind of one of those IEMs that I didn't really like. I personally wouldn't want to listen to it. Like, I thought it was acceptable and fun for audiophiles that want to own a bazillion sets. But for people that are kind of new to the hobby that want a solid, strong set that does a lot well, it's not really for me. Let's compare this now to some of the benchmarks at 200 and see how it competes. My IEM of the year last year, the Binary Gizaudio Chopin. I like the Chopin. The Chopin has kind of sparkly air. It kind of has this thunderous, bumpy, fun bass. But like, its overall texturing and everything and all about it isn't exactly right. I think male vocals come across better on the KiwiEars KE4. The build quality and comfort of the KiwiEars KE4 is like 1,000 times better. The Chopin, while a good sounding IEM, I think its build quality was one of those ones that I think it became a very interesting style IEM. Like, if you need an IEM like that, it could be good, but it was so unique and so different that it's kind of hard to get used to in this slew of things. Although I think Binary did do a great job with, let's say, the Dyna Quattro and changing that up, but we're not talking about that right now. To me, the KiwiEars KE4 kind of replaces that as a new $200 benchmark, which is, you know, something to be said. Now, if we look at other IEMs like the Performer 5, I like the Performer 5. They just announced they're doing a new Performer 5. Like, it sounds like, you know, that now the Awful's kind of gotten their Cantor out. My Cantor should be here any day now or any moment now. Now that they're going to be doing a new one, which is awesome. But if we compare something like the Awful Performer 5 versus the KiwiEars KE4, I mean, the KiwiEars KE4 has a little bit better bass, a little bit different approach to upper mids, which I think is a little bit more clean and a better representation overall. I think that's kind of the way to go, and the way to go that I would recommend personally. It would be the KiwiEars KE4 if you're just someone new to the hobby, like, you know, I have $200. That sounds like a reasonable amount of money. Let's get a good headphone. Or like a gift to somebody, like if you want to get your dad or your brother or like maybe your wife or someone else into the hobby, I think the KiwiEars KE4 represents great value in comparison to these other $200 IEMs. So this is what we call kind of the JM1 style tuning. And if you look at some of the other tuned IEMs like the Hype 4, I think it's really very similar to each other. I think the KiwiEars 4 and the Hype 4 actually trade blows really well. I think you would have to AB them and have them right next to you. And like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep my Hype 4. I mean, I would respect that decision. But I think what this provides is that level of tuning and a very close to the amount of technical detail that I would have at a fraction of that cost. And I think, I don't think the Hype 4 is a bad IEM, but it had some weirdities in the upper air and treble, like things sounded splashy and not very dynamic. The KiwiEars 4 also has some of those issues, but we're not talking about a perfect product, which almost no products are. We're talking about a good product that's at a reasonable price point that can help kind of people enter the hobby and enter something that is a good overall product. And therefore, the KiwiEars 4 represents good value in that response. The last one I want to show you is the only really meta one that's been out for a while now, the High Senior Mega 5 EST. Now, I like the High Senior Mega 5 EST. It sounds very good, very clean, very pure. Its drivers are better. If this is the sound you like and eventually you want to upgrade, I think the Mega 5 MegaFest might be the way to go. But again, it's expensive. It's over double the cost. And the KiwiEars 4 can kind of give you an idea of whether you like that tuning or get a good sounding IEM that is very pleasing and very lovely for a much, much cheaper cost. So let's rank this thing up. How does it do? I mean, first of all, I think it's important to note that this is a value IEM that sounds good. It's not going to beat your IEMs that are much more expensive than this. But at this price point, I think this is an exceptional value. And you can tell that by looking at my ranking list. That's one of the reasons I have a ranking list, so you guys can kind of check on it. And you don't have to watch my super long, kind of winded out reviews with me and my raspy, sicky voice right now that I have. Apologize for that, but let's look at this and see how it did. Overall tier, A. Strong IEM. 3-star. Very solid presentation. 8.8 on tone. Really strong bass. I like the bass. The mids approach are good, and it has good upper air and good twinklies and sparklies, and you'll like it. I think it images well. It's not perfect. It's not as good as some of its bigger brothers, and that's kind of what you'd be looking at more. It's just like a little bit more detail, a little bit more pristineness in the drivers. I mean, if they made this IEM and they started listening to it after production and they thought it was as good as $1,000 IEM, they probably would have sold it. So I think, it's about right price point where it's at. I think $200 is where it should be because it's not perfect. It has good note weight, but you might need to tip swap and get the right thing. The stock tips are absolutely horrific and I hate them. If you like them, I do think they're cute, but for me and my ear canal, they did not work. I preferred almost any other tip to those. And so for me, the tips weren't good and it messed with the note weight a great deal. But, it's just something to kind of know. I think it has good soundstage and good resolution for the price. This is a nice sounding IEM that's not perfect, that does a lot of things well. I think it would be really good for gamers. I think it'd be really good for other people. I think this is an IEM that's going to have some weight in some categories. I think this is a very fantastic IEM. It's like KiwiEars has been kind of sleeping and have a lot of IEMs like the Forteza. I mean, in some ways, the Singolo, and a lot of their releases this year, after having some great sets last year, like the Quintet, which is really well received, they were able to come up with the KE4, which I absolutely love, and I think they've done a fantastic job with. And I want to say kudos to the KiwiEars team and the people that did this. And I always want to give credit when I think that's due. This is a good IEM that provides outstanding sonic value, and I think it's going to hold some weight for years to come. So this is the cheapest IEM so far in that category, right? This is the cheapest JM1 style IEM that's out there. Is You know, does that mean you need to go out there and buy it? No, because I think there's going to be even cheaper IEMs coming out. What I will say is that I am fully impressed with this IEM. It sounds good. It looks good. I love the design. I feel like they really listened to some of the feedback with something like the Quintet, and this is almost like, you know, if it feels that same price point as the Quintet, but I feel like it smooths some things out, and it just sounds really nice, natural, clean, and clear. And I think this is a good sonic value, especially to new people, especially for gifts. I think it kind of has, I don't know, that look where it could go man or woman, and it's just handsome. I think the shells are great. I think it's a nice cable. I like the added case. The tips I do not like. But overall, I think this is a good sonic bargain. It's something that I'd recommend to people that want to try the JM1 but are maybe hesitant about, you know, buying the Audio Hype 4 or the Mega 5 VST due to its price. It provides a lot of value, and it could be something good for you. And I've really enjoyed my time testing with this, and I am a very happy purchaser of this unit. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?